Okay, hi everyone. I'm Katie. I'm a program manager with Causewave, and we manage the AMPed campaign. And I'm here with Ryan Wheeler and Jacob Beeman from National Grid. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to get started with the presentation, and if you have any questions, we hope to have time to get to them at the end. But feel free to pop them in the Q&A. And if we're not able to get to them, we will make sure to follow up after the webinar. This is also being recorded and will be available next week via AMP's social channels and on our website. So a little bit about AMPed. If you're not familiar with us, we're a campaign whose purpose is to help make the Genesee Finger Lakes region healthier, more efficient, and more resilient by supporting our community's transition to vehicles and buildings powered by carbon-free electricity. As many of you probably know, buildings and vehicles are two of the most significant contributors of carbon emissions, and AMPed is a community impact collaborative initiative to try and address to bring down emissions in these two areas. We're also the fleet electrification arm of Greater Rochester Clean Cities, which is a partnership with the Department of Energy and geared towards alternative fuels. So the goals for today is to gain a clearer understanding of existing initiatives that address grid capacity concerns, both commercially and residentially, to learn more about what's happening in the EV school bus space, and to demystify common myths around grid capacity. But before we get started, I just wanted to share a couple of hot off the press updates from the state, the budget that are relevant to today's presentation. The budget passed earlier this month with a $1 billion dedication to a sustainable future fund, and that includes infrastructure improvements and grid modernization. And NYSERDA has also just released a couple of programs. One of them being a retail and residential energy storage incentive program. And that the retail version of that went live yesterday, and the residential portal is going to open on June 10th. And this is an opportunity for homes, businesses, and communities to pair energy storage with solar, which address grid concerns. And NYSERDA also just announced a new grid enhancing technologies program. And that's an initiative that will support product development, demonstration projects, and research studies, also aimed at building a more reliant energy grid. I have links for both of those initiatives that I'm going to pop into the chat in just a minute. But in the meantime, I want to introduce our presenters, Jacob Beeman, who's program manager with customer solutions for fleet and MHDV electric vehicles, and Ryan Wheeler, fleet electrification product owner, both with National Grid. So I'm going to hand it over to them.
Thanks, Katie. Good afternoon, everyone. As Katie mentioned, my name is Jacob Beeman. I am our electric vehicle fleet program manager for National Grid's New York territory. I'm joined here this afternoon with my colleague, Ryan Wheeler, who is our EV fleet product owner. And we are going to talk a little bit about National Grid's electric vehicle programs that offer incentives for installing EV chargers, as well as just some of the high-level kind of planning work that we do to help our customers in their electrification journey. Next slide. So just real quick, going through the agenda, we're going to start out with talking about some of the work that we do, again, just kind of at a higher level with our customers planning for fleet electrification across our territory. Then we're going to kind of move into some school bus specific support that we provide. So working a lot with our school district customers right now in their school bus electrification transition. And then moving into some of our commercial make-ready programs for our business and fleet operators. So again, our make-ready programs are our the incentives that we can offer to help our customers install EV charging. and then finally wrap it up with some of our residential EV programs that, again, our residential customers can take advantage of to help save them money on electricity when they purchase an electric vehicle. Next slide. So to start off, I'm going to hand it over to Ryan to talk about our electrification planning efforts.
Yeah, thanks, Jacob, and thanks everyone for joining. I'll just do a few minutes here to kick things off, and Jacob's going to go into more detail about our programs. But as Jacob mentioned, I'm our EV fleet owner for National Grid, so I support our programs for both New York and Massachusetts from a regulatory and kind of program design standpoint. So we'll talk a little bit about how committed National Grid is to this space, and then Jacob can talk about all of the exciting offerings that we have for our New York customers. But first, we like to start with this slide because we see transportation as the lowest hanging fruit in terms of where we can tackle the most CO2 emissions. We really view it as a public health solution where clean air combined with clean power, it means healthier kids, healthier drivers, and therefore better health for the whole community. This chart on the left is one of my favorite stats where medium and heavy duty vehicles make up less than 10% of the vehicles on the road, but they're responsible for almost a third of the CO2 emissions from transportation and more than 2/3 of the pollution emissions from transportation, right? So in terms of bang for the buck from a statewide perspective, electrifying these larger vehicles gets a lot of those pollution and CO2 emissions out of our air and out of our lungs. I think the middle column just kind of stresses that the state is very committed to these things in terms of the light duty vehicle goals that we've committed to, the advanced clean transportation goals, advanced clean trucking rules that we've established across the state, and as well as the school bus transition goals by 2035. And then, another pie chart on the right there is upstate New York actually has some of the cleanest power in the nation, where 90% of our power comes from clean electricity, right? That can't be said for some of the power downstate, but even better than California, our power is zero emission power that's powering all these vehicles on the road. And next slide, please, Katie. So holistically across both states here, National Grid can support the whole fleet electrification journey. In the text boxes there across the top, we have planning, infrastructure, the EV chargers themselves, as well as operations and maintenance savings. So for all of our customer segments, National Grid has $360 million of support from our programs. For fleets in particular, from a planning perspective, we've done more than 400 fleet assessments, which actually covers more than 20,000 vehicles that we've looked at for electrification across Massachusetts and New York. From an infrastructure perspective, we've installed for all of our programs 10,000 charging ports with thousands more in the pipeline. And on the operational side, we've got all kinds of programs in place to essentially extract the value from the EVs once they reach the road, right? So how can we minimize their impact to the grid, but also how can we put dollars into the pockets of our customers on the operational rebate side? Next slide, please, Katie. So for New York, from a MHD perspective, this is kind of a high level view of everything we can offer fleets in New York. Jacob's going to go through some of the infrastructure details in particular. On the planning side of things, I already mentioned the fleet assessments, but we also have something new called Flexible Connections, which is an offering for customers to essentially take advantage of all of the capacity on our distribution system that's available during off-peak times. So typically, we've only been able to allow customers to connect based on the peak hour of the peak day of the year. But we're now going to have this program that allows customers to utilize that infrastructure during those non-peak hours, which is going to be a really big benefit to both ratepayers as well as the fleets themselves, because they'll be able to get a lot more power to their vehicles with the existing infrastructure, so they can put off those grid investments. On the infrastructure side in the center here, we've got all kinds of infrastructure to fund for fleets of all types, but we also have programs to be able to help manage the load, right? So getting smarter charging requires some slight investments in things like load management software or hardware, and we have programs to help assist with that. And then on the operational savings, quickly, once the project is in place, we can take things like half off of the demand charge, which is the charge that happens for your peak power output during the month. We have a new phase-in rate that's coming later this year that's going to make the transition easier. Kind of as these sites grow, their electricity costs will grow along with it. So we have some more kind of advanced offerings in terms of managed charging discounts that are also coming soon, and vehicle to grid is a way for kind of advanced fleets to discharge back to the grid during peak times. And then my final slide, Katie. Just to kind of put a little finer point on it, New York has really invested heavily on clean transportation in this space. And where we are now is here on the left, where collectively across all the different vehicle types, we have $1 billion EV infrastructure program. We're actually coming up on the end of that program at the end of this year. National Grid is nearly almost fully subscribed to that program. So that program is going to be rolling into a new phase here before the end of the year. But most importantly, for medium and heavy duty vehicles, the middle column here, NYSERDA and the Department of Public Service are doing an assessment of basically a full scale MHD program that's going to be a bottoms up analysis of all the different medium and heavy duty vehicles in the state and what we need to do to serve those vehicles from an infrastructure perspective. And then finally, on the right here, we've initiated a first in the United States, a program called Proactive Planning, and so that's an area where utilities typically have to grow the distribution grid in line with demand, right? So we have to wait for a customer to ask for a new service connection. But for the first time, New York has opened up this anticipatory T&D investment for fleet clusters and for high priority sites along the highway, et cetera, before the customer requests the load. So that's a really positive news to help address a lot of the constraints on the system for these high traffic areas. And we're really looking forward to continuing to expand that investment over the next couple of years. So I'll pause there and move and hand off to you, Jacob. But maybe for the rest of the slides, I don't know if you want to take control of the slides, Jacob, if you're able to share, just so we can kind of make sure we have the colors right there.
Yes, I can share my screen. Let me just see here.
Or not. Just wasn't sure how hard it was to see on screen there.
I don't know. I think we can. Katie, you can keep running.
Yeah, go for it. Yep.
Sorry. While you were doing that, we do have a question. If you did want to look into that, do all publicly owned utilities in the state have similar programs? What about municipal owned utilities?
Yeah, so the joint utilities for New York are all under the same program. Yeah, so on that slide that I was just talking to, that's where the Department of Public Service regulates all of us in the same manner with the same programs. Municipal utilities, unfortunately, are not part of that joint utilities group. So anyone outside of the territory of National Grid or RG&E or NYSEG or Central Hudson or Con Ed, Orange and Rockland is the last one. So that's where all these EV programs are housed. That's not to prevent some of the municipal utilities from investing in EV infrastructure programs, but they're not included in the statewide JU programs.
Thank you. And Jacob, are you good, or do you want me to go back to sharing? Oh, there we go.
Are you guys seeing my presentation?
Yes. Yeah, sorry.
Okay. Okay, so moving into some of the school district specific support that we provide our customers. Really, I think the big thing that we want to point out here is that with all of our fleet customers, really, we offer more than just kind of financial incentives for the installation of infrastructure We really want to be kind of a partner with our customers in their electrification process, and being a resource for them, really kind of A to Z in their process. So that's working kind of at the planning level, helping them kind of resolve barriers to implementation, really understanding what kind of capacity is available at their site, and putting them in contact with other industry experts, vendors, and other folks that are going to be able to help incentivize other pieces of their projects. So, we really kind of pride ourselves in that customer service aspect. And to date, we've worked with over 250 school districts to help them start the process in electrification. So we do that through our fleet assessments that Ryan has already mentioned. I'm going to talk a little bit more about, and just kind of general discussions about what their plans are, understanding project timelines, and again, providing support for their applications to state and federal incentive programs for the vehicles and chargers themselves. Of those 250 districts, that's about 9,000 buses that are being considered to electrify. So, a lot of those districts are in different stages of their planning process, but all of them kind of moving towards that 2035 goal of full fleet electrification. In addition to that, right, we're kind of looking into both local capacity upgrades that might be needed for specific school districts and their specific projects. But at the same time, like Ryan mentioned, we do have kind of this proactive planning process happening as well, where we're looking at our infrastructure at a higher level to try to determine kind of certain sites that can be upgraded ahead of time so that our customers don't necessarily need to wait for those upgrades. And then finally, really being a good partner with our state and federal, other state and federal organizations that districts are going to need to be working with to get the additional incentives for the vehicles. So when our customers are talking to us about our programs, and they may not be familiar with the other available incentives for the buses themselves, we try to maintain a close relationship with our partners at NYSERDA and federal EPA to make those connections with our customers so that it's easing the planning process for the school districts. Last year, we worked on a project with the Joint Utilities of New York. So those are the 5 other utilities in New York State that Ryan was mentioning earlier, to evaluate over 1,100 public school district depot sites to kind of get a high-level understanding of capacity available and potential work that might need to go into these sites to help districts electrify. So these sites included both public school districts, transportation service providers, BOCES sites, as well as charter school sites. So again, that was done with other utilities across the state, but diving into a little bit of the data on what we were able to find out in our territory specifically. Kind of the big thing here, a question that we get often asked is, can the grid handle it? How much capacity is available on the grid? So as part of this study, we were able to identify that over 90% of our national grid feeders had over 500 kilowatts of capacity available today. So, really what that looks like for us is, thinking about it in terms of how many buses. In many cases, that's 20 to 25 buses that a district could electrify on that 500 kilowatts. So what that means is that most districts in our system are going to be able to at least start their electrification journey with the existing capacity available. And then, we do have that 10-year kind of runway to 2035 for certain fleets that have, a lot of school buses or need a lot of, potential midday charging that might need capacity upgrades on the grid. We have that 10-year kind of runway to make those upgrades as the districts kind of move towards 100% fleet electrification. So, really, we feel that most of our customers are going to be able to at least get started with the existing capacity available today. So then kind of moving into a little bit more of kind of that myth busting or just kind of common questions that were asked, you know, touching on a few of those a little bit more detail here. So, you know, one of the big ones, can buses handle daily operations today? So about 90% of daily operations are less than 100 miles, and nearly all of daily operations are less than 155 miles. So that would be, you know, a bus is traveling typically less than 100 miles, and most often less than 155 miles per day. So, you know, that's, you know, within the range of most battery electric bus technology today. So from the standpoint, can today's electric bus technology handle daily operations? You know, we feel that that answer is in most cases, yes. And then kind of moving into the charging needs of those buses, you know, for the most part, 19 to 30 kilowatts of charging, assuming that those buses have a 10 to 12 hour dwell time, is going to be able to deliver the kilowatt hours needed for to complete those routes. So again, you know, on the buses side and on the charging side, we feel that with today's technology, you know, most routes are going to be able to be serviced. And, you know, in terms of charging, a 19 kilowatt charger is kind of the highest level 2 charger that's going to be available. And then a 30 kilowatt charger is actually on the lower end of a level 3 charger that's going to require DC power. So, you know, overall 19 or 30 kilowatt charging isn't a terribly high charge rate needed to accomplish most routes today. Number 3, can the grid handle the first wave of buses? This kind of goes back to that information on the last slide. You know, over 90% of our grid today can handle about 500 kilowatts. So, you know, we do feel that, yes, you know, the grid is in a position today to handle at least that first wave of electric school buses that are going to be coming in the short term. And then looking closer at the fuel costs, you know, right now with most of the analysis that we've done with our current customers, we're looking at fuel costs around 10 to 20 cents per kilowatt hour. And comparing that to diesel, that's about a 40% savings over diesel consumption. So, you know, really looking, you know, we do feel that districts are going to be able to save money by transitioning, you know, to the electric buses in terms of fuel costs. So moving now more into our Make Ready program. So again, these are the incentives that are going to be available for our customers. We've got a number of different incentives that are going to help both light duty fleet and medium and heavy duty fleet, as well as kind of you know, public charging and multi-unit dwellings and things like that. So we have our light duty Make Ready program, which is going to offer incentives on level 2 and DC fast charging for those public use cases, workplaces, multi-unit dwellings. And then our medium and heavy duty vehicle pilot program offers utility and customer side incentives on medium and heavy duty vehicle charging. So that's vehicles over 10,000 pounds are going to be able to take advantage of our medium and heavy duty pilot program funding. And that's typically what we're going to be working with our school district customers on. We also have fleet assessment services. So again, we've mentioned that a couple times in this presentation. These are no-cost assessments that we can kind of really get the conversation started with our customers on how much capacity is available at the site. And then again, our demand charge rebate program, which kind of at the end of the process, when vehicles are acquired, chargers are installed, you know, we're also able to help offset the cost of ongoing operations with our customers. So what do our programs incentivize? Want to make it, you know, pretty clear that None of our programs offer incentives on the vehicle chargers themselves. There's only incentives available for what we call the make-ready infrastructure. So that's both grid side and customer side infrastructure that may need to be upgraded or installed to accommodate the EV charging. And then depending on the program that we have, those different pieces, whether it's grid side or customer side, are kind of incentivized at different levels. So here we have our light duty vehicle charging program. So again, these are vehicles less than 10,000 pounds. So I'm not going to go through all of the different incentive levels, but the key thing here is to understand that projects could be incentivized based on or from 50, 90, or 100%. And it's really based on kind of two things: whether or not the site is publicly available, and then whether or not the site is located within a disadvantaged community or not. And then also DC fast charging versus level 2 projects can be incentivized at different levels kind of throughout that scale as well. So really, we evaluate each and every project that comes to us on a case-by-case basis to determine which level that project is going to fall in, and then ultimately, collect the total project cost, and then incentivize that project based on which level it's falling in. Big takeaway here from this, and you see it down in the bottom in red, is currently our level 2 incentive programs are in a kind of wait list scenario. So when this program was originally developed, there was a total plug count that we could incentivize. So a total number of EV charging ports could be incentivized. And right now in our project pipeline, we have enough projects to meet that port count. So we're not the program is not closed. We're still accepting new applications, but they are not necessarily guaranteed funding as long as, if projects in the pipeline drop out, then projects kind of in the wait list could move up. But want to make it clear that our programs are still open. We do have a petition in right now with the Department of Public Service that would up that port count and allow us to continue incentivizing level 2 plugs. So still encouraging people to apply, but projects that are coming in right now will be put on a wait list and kind of to be determined what level funding they would fall into. Other big takeaway: DC fast charging projects and medium and heavy duty vehicle projects are still open and business as usual. There is no wait list for DC fast and medium and heavy duty vehicle projects. Getting more into the fleet assessments. So again, these are no cost assessments that we provide all fleet customers. So whether it's light duty vehicles, medium and heavy duty vehicles, essentially if you're a fleet of 3 or 4 vehicles, we want to help you through our fleet advisory services. And that's really getting that initial look at capacity available at the site. We're able to tell you, if there are issues at the substation level, feeder level, or service transformer level for the desired project, desired size of your project. And then we also provide a rate analysis as part of this assessment. So using some information that we request from the customer, we're able to determine an approximate cost per kilowatt hour of energy, and then using kind of some vehicle miles traveled information, develop the monthly cost of electricity as well. In addition to that, we also provide more information on our incentive programs in that document, and kind of where we think that your project will fall kind of on that scale and which program it would likely be utilizing. So again, pretty popular program. We've completed over 250 of these to date, and really encourage all of our fleet customers to access this if they're interested. And this is a great way to kind of get conversations started with us. So moving into the medium and heavy duty vehicle pilot program. So again, this is the incentive program that vehicles over 10,000 pounds would be accessing. And This is going to cover up to 90% of utility side infrastructure costs for all eligible projects. And then potentially up to 50% of customer side infrastructure costs if a project is located in a disadvantaged community, or if it's a fully publicly accessible medium and heavy duty vehicle charging project. So you see the kind of those eligibility criteria down below. If you're participating in a vehicle incentive program, so if you've received incentives for the electric vehicle that you're using through the New York State School Bus Incentive Program, New York Truck Voucher Incentive Program, or the EPA Clean School Bus Program, you're going to want to be you're going to be eligible to receive that 90% of utility side infrastructure costs. And then if you're located in the disadvantaged community, you get the 50% customer side cost as well. And then if you are not participating in a eligible truck voucher or vehicle incentive program, you could still install medium and heavy duty charging for a fully publicly accessible site and get both the 90% grid side incentive and the 50% customer side incentive. So again, with the medium and heavy duty pilot, there's kind of a couple different scenarios that a project could fall into. So we evaluate them on a case-by-case basis. But the potential for both 90% grid side upgrade and a 50% customer side incentive as well. So in addition to the Make Ready program, we also have a load management technology incentive program. And this is not specific to medium and heavy duty vehicle charging. This would apply to all of our Make Ready medium and heavy duty and light duty vehicle projects. So this is going to offer additional incentives on load management technologies. So that would be things like battery energy storage systems that are kind of standalone, or if there are EV chargers that have kind of battery systems built into them, as well as additional load management software and hardware pieces that are often kind of installed alongside these EV charging projects that are going to help kind of reduce the overall demand and help balance that load between the chargers throughout the life of a project. So really, these incentives kind of follow the same scale as our light duty and medium and heavy duty Make Ready incentives. So depending on what level your project is going to fall into, you could get anywhere from 50 to 60% incentives on load management or the battery energy storage systems. And then on the software and hardware side, the incentives would likely fall within the same kind of percentages as the Make Ready project would. So these are often, definitely see load management technology being installed or evaluated alongside our, medium and heavy duty projects. So it's a really good pairing to kind of add additional savings to the installation costs. And then our, finally, again, we've talked about it, but our demand charge rebate program. So this is, a program that's going to help with those ongoing operational costs. And really, this is a 50% rebate on customers' billed demand charge. So the way this would work is that a customer can apply to be a part of the demand charge rebate program. And we actually take 6 months of a customer's bill and then provide them with 50% of their paid demand charge and cut them a check for that 50% back. So it's kind of a reimbursement program. It's not a discount off the initial cost of the bill, but working with quite a few customers on that to help them offset those high demand charges that might be seen with some of the DC fast charging projects. And finally, going to wrap it up with quickly touching on our residential EV programs. So, all of the kind of the installation incentives that I talked about in those previous slides are really for our commercial customers, but we do offer programs that help with residential EV charging as well. And we can do that in two different ways. The first one being our EV Charge Smart plan. So the EV Charge Smart is really an app-based program that customers can enroll in, download the app, and then kind of link that to either your phone or your vehicle or the charger that you have installed at your home if you have a level 2 charger installed. And so what the program does is it encourages off-peak charging between the hours of 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. So if you can manage your electric vehicle charging between those hours 80% of the time, we're going to be able to offer a $15 a month discount on your utility bill. So this does require having a compatible vehicle and or compatible charger to link to the app. So if you follow the links that are, if we send this slide deck out, there's links embedded here that you could get more information on what those vehicles are and see if you might be eligible if you're an EV driver. And then the second option is our voluntary time of use program. And so the voluntary time of use program is actually more of a whole home rate program where same kind of thing. We're encouraging off-peak energy use. So in this case, you wouldn't need an app or a compatible vehicle or charger. By enrolling in the voluntary time of use program, the rate is designed to give added discounts for off-peak energy usage, and therefore by charging your electric vehicle off-peak, you would realize benefits on your utility bill, kind of based on how much of that charging is done during the off-peak time. And with this program, it's really set up where there's a new meter installed that is kind of tracking the use, and no apps, no phone usage. Really, just we install the new meter that will kind of track that usage in line with the VTOU program, and the bill savings will kind of be realized from there. So 2 different options for residential programs. And with that is my last slide. And it looks like we've got about 5 minutes left. So happy to answer any questions that folks may have.
Thank you so much, both Jacob and Ryan. We do have a couple questions. So I'll just start at the top. Jacob cited with New York incentives related to fuel costs per mile. Can you elaborate on what those incentives are?
Yeah, so that would be looking at not only incentives, the demand charge rebate program, but also we evaluate a lot of the evaluations that we're doing for our fleet customers are looking ahead at, we do have a new EV specific rate coming online in October. So a lot of times when we're evaluating our fleet customers' energy usage, we're using that new EV phase-in rate, we're calling it, to estimate what that cost of electricity is going to be, because likely their chargers will be installed kind of after October of this year. But what that rate is going to do is actually kind of offset, depending on the usage of an EV charger. So if it's low, what we call load factor, so if it's low utilization, the demand charge would be discounted, and there's actually a higher cost of energy associated with that. But then as the energy use kind of ramps up, it would build into, the demand charge would increase and the cost of energy would decrease. So it's really meant to kind of provide a sliding scale of demand and energy costs, so that the customer is always, the total cost per kilowatt hour of energy remains somewhat stable, as opposed to potentially getting hit with very high demand charges with low energy use. So that's kind of the big, not only really we have the demand charge rebate program now as far as operational incentives and savings, and then we have that new EV phase-in rate that's coming online later this year.
Yeah, and Jacob and Katie, I might just chime in that I think that the text on that slide said with New York rebates, within something like 10 to 20 cents per kilowatt hour. Even that was meant to just kind of be inclusive of everything Jacob just talked about, right? So like our commercial rates today are also in that range, right? And so it's mostly just to say, 20 cents per kilowatt hour roughly equates to something like $1.50 to $2 per gallon equivalent, right? And so that's going to be, more than 40% cheaper than the cost of gasoline or diesel.
Thanks. The next question is there flexibility there? But I think it's referencing the comment before that, which says, I know this is a legislative decision, but I'm surprised to see Tesla is listed as a proprietary plug when it is now the standard. Is there flexibility there? I think that might be this all one question.
Yeah, so I think originally Tesla was considered a proprietary plug, and I don't, Ryan, you may know more. Is there something in the works that is would be changed in our program, or is that still considered proprietary?
Yeah. So in that table, there's some kind of definitions about the proprietary being matched with non-proprietary, right? And so to the point about NACS being the standard going forward, that is part of the review process for the next phase of the project. And so yeah, those will be considered a different way going forward.
Thank you. Does the load management software provide for utility dispatch of the charging loads?
I guess I'm not quite clear on what utility dispatch would mean. Is that thinking putting it back onto the grid? Maybe is that?
If the person who asked that question is still on, would you mind clarifying? Or we can just move on to the.
I mean, maybe to just kind of take a generic response to that. I think the answer is yes. So those load management technologies can perform a variety of different functions, whether it's through our just simply avoiding the peak, the peak pricing for demand or supply prices, but also the technology required for flexible connections would be covered within that bucket. And I see this clarification, yeah, and also just enabling those customers to be able to just be able to shift their load to off-peak hours. At this point, it wouldn't be a utility controlled charging load from that sense. So that would always be something that's up to the customer to be able to manage those loads.
And one final question, was the feeder capacity information mentioned in the presentation for all of New York State, or was this just National Grid feeders?
Just National Grid feeders was the 90%. The 90% of feeders have over 500 kilowatts capacity would be just for our National Grid territory.
Yeah, and that data was shared as part of a technical conference that was held by the state last May, and the stat for the state is something similar. But so that, yeah, it's in that same ballpark for the overall state, not just National Grid territory.
Well, thank you so much. I just put my contact info in the chat if anyone has any additional questions. But we'll be sending out this presentation this coming week, as well as posting to our social channels and website for Amped. And thank you all for coming, and have a great holiday weekend.